that will be a very light presentation. Marco Trombetti asked me to talk about Adriano Olivetti. He's an incredible person, an incredible story, not so known by young people. So the idea is not only to be nostalgic and to try to remember a good past, but find elements that can be very useful today. So I do believe that Olivetti and the Olivetti heritage can be very insightful today for us, for designer, for innovator, and so the idea is to talk about the past, but in fact look at the future. This is Olivetti, Adriano. He died. He had an heart attack. He died in 1960, but you know the heritage of Olivetti continued. So it became a company of 50,000 people, and this because it was good in founding a strong and a resilient organization, first of all. So first, you already know what I did about technology, Tinite, but also spent some time in design. I was launching the Interaction Design Institute in Ivrea when I was the boss of R&D in Telecom Italia. So the idea was to take the building where Olivetti had the design center and recreate this experience with young teachers. John Thacker, Bill Fairplant, so a lot of good teachers, and it was a very exciting initiative. What's happened? Oh, non c'è presentazione, there is not only to 61, no? Nessun titolo. There is no slides. Moment. Backup. No, the other was much heavier. Maybe there is no presentation. Let's check. Let's see if it's better. No, maybe it's to close this one. Okay. Do aprire, annulla. Okay, we got it. So in the let's see. I think it's fine, no? Yes. So in the one of the teachers of Interaction Design Institute was Massimo Banza. You know very well. In fact, Arduino started there in these buildings in the Olivetti area in Ivrea. So it was a very exciting experience. And then Interaction Design entered in Domus Academy, which was a very famous international design school. And I was director in Domus Academy, and we launched a couple of initiatives, innovative in terms of design. Here, this was the first master in design of cultural experience. The idea was to adapt the design not to a physical object like interior design facial, but to experience, to symbolic. And it was a very interesting, it was done in Rome with Domus Academy. It was very interesting because very international, and students all over the world came to Italy to learn how to design cultural experience, tour, place, lighting system in old towns, things like that. So this was also, and then we did with Bocconi, you see, 10 years ago, the first experience putting together design and business. So to put the design approach in the MBA. So this is my training experience. And then I was the chairman for the archive for many years in Ivrea. So this is the reason why. I think that Olivetti is really a paradigmatic example of how to do innovation. And the idea is to share with you some of the lessons learned about this heritage. These are some quotes, very interesting about what is important, the role of design, which is not doing nice object. Is tackling, for example, the problem of comprehension, or as Sotsas realized that at the end, the digital, everything is similar. Electronics is a component. So how can I re-explain the functions, the affordance of an object? I have to put a lot of design there. So the challenge of designing electronic devices was very interesting. And also, in Olivetti started very deep discussion about meaning. For example, this one. We are full of devices, but we are lost to their purposes, very actual. But this idea came at least 20 years ago, at least. So I think that, also the culture of design in Olivetti was quite interesting, quite useful to not forget. And these are, to me, at least, the contribution that today are still valuable about the Olivetti stories. Products, production cycles, corporate identity, workplaces, smart cities, and the business ethics. So let's go very quickly about, to see some. So a lot of products, 13 Compasso d'Oro was part of the Olivetti portfolio. You can maybe see some of them. And so big capability of inventing, designing new product, but also very different from this kind of product, very old, mechanical to the electronic. So Olivetti was able to adapt to different innovation revolutions, at least 3 or 4, and was always at the top. So good capability of being the best in one technology, but also be ready to adapt to a new technology. And this is not easy if you don't have open innovation inside. So let's see the products, some products, but only to see good things. This is the very famous Valentine, Sozzas, beautiful typing machine. This was Divisumma, calculating machine, Bellini. This is Logos, another calculating machine by Bellini, beautiful, very, very, very essential. This is the famous Perotto, the first computer machine. This is the first personal computer in the world. And there is also a very famous picture where this computer was used by NASA. So it was the first use of very famous to do the calculation to the landing of Apollo 11. So it was an Italian computer. It's not known that Italy launched the first personal computer, but that's the story of Olivetti. And then this is a very big commercial success, M20, M24 by Sozzas. Then did a big invention in terms of production cycle. This is the concept of Isola, unità di montaggio integrate. The idea is to split the line of production in element where you could improve the quality and reduce the dependence of technology. Alienazione, I don't know how to say alienation in English. Alienation, no. Alienazione, how do you translate? Alienation doesn't make any sense. So when the men are controlled by machines. So the idea is to, this is very important in the Olivetti mentality, to push a lot on innovation, but to remember always the worker, always. This is, it's not easy to balance, the good way of living of the workers and the innovation. And this innovation to split the line in islands of production was a very revolutionary idea of taking both the innovation of the process and the quality, the ethic, the quality of the life of the workers. Then probably one of the most incredible activity was corporate identity and publicity, advertising. Did incredible things, posters, really a lot of innovation. Here is Folon, for example. A lot of very famous designers and painters were hired in Olivetti to invent corporate identity. In fact, probably is the first company who invented corporate identity. The logos, the characters, the posters, the books was really an element of newness, and there is a collection of posters which is gorgeous to see, and still nice to see today. Another very important element was the factories. Olivetti built beautiful factories. This is Pozzuoli. This is a very famous picture taken by Henri Cartier-Bresson on the Olivetti, on the Pozzuoli building. Beautiful. And the idea was have large windows so the sun could enter. And there was also an explanation. This is the famous speech of Olivetti at the starting of the Olivetti factory in Pozzuoli. This is facing the most remarkable bay in the world, Pozzuoli. The architect has designed this factory to respect its beautiful surroundings and to make this beauty a source of comfort in the working day. So distance from today's perception. And this was not saying, it was doing this concretely. And the idea of designing to human scale the worker. The workplace will be an instrument of fulfillment and not a source of suffering. So I think, very powerful. This is 1955, in terms of, to have an idea of the timing. And then, not only the factory, but also the offices. The idea that Olivetti understood that if I want to change the way people use digital and work better, let's call it smart work, it's not enough to build computers. I have to redesign office spaces. That was very clever. Today, co-working, working at home, there is a major chapter of how may I work at home, and we should recall designer to think about how to organize places, not only smart work, Skype, and technology. And a lot of innovation, this is SOTSAS, the Series 45, BPPR space. So there was a lot of innovation how to design office space, how to have places to organize papers, for example, and was very important in terms of design innovation. And then the beautiful shops. Another idea was shops. Shops have to be beautiful. And this is the showroom in New York designed by BPPR, Porasute Roger, etc. Beautiful. And this is the most beautiful, absolutely, is in Piazza San Marco, Venezia. This is designed by Carlo Scarpa, which was one of the most, to me, beautiful Italian architect. It's beautiful. It's not a place where you show product. It's a place where you enter and you are part of a community. You celebrate your participation to the Olivetti community. That was the message. And in fact, this message was this of Apple Store. The problem that Apple Store is 2001, and this is 1970. And in one interview, Steve Jobs admitted that the Olivetti shop was inspiring to him. And it's really an innovation because understand that technology is not only functions, it's symbols, it's something more. So if I want to sell something more, I have to have a place where there is not a list of functionalities, of products. It's a way that I become part of a community. And in fact, really, also from an aesthetic point of view, you see how they are similar in terms of concept. Another very famous was Gaeolenti, another very famous architect who designed the showroom in Paris. So not only the works, the fabric, but also the shops were very important. And another innovation was smart cities. The idea that the town where the fabric is have to be very important, have to be technological, have to be nice, and the fabric have to help the city and not vice versa. They don't have to kill in terms of spaces or kill the surrounding because there are no more farmers and everybody works in the fabric and the nature collapse. For Olivetti, it was very important to keep the equilibrium between the fabric, the town, and the surrounding. And in fact, he was an architect, he was an urbanist. He did the Piano Regolatore of Ivrea, because for him it was important to avoid unbalance. We could say that the balance was very important in terms of concept. And in fact, Ivrea now is candidate to become an UNESCO cultural heritage. And it's very important the role that Olivetti played in Matera. Matera was a very complex town where people were living in houses, in caverne, in caves with nothing, no light, really impossible. And the parliament launched a commissione d'inchiesta, and Quaroni, who was the architect of Olivetti, was sent to this commission. And what they did, they took out from the Matera all the citizens, and they built the new towns. This is La Martella, which was designed by Quaroni. And the idea is that these houses are for two families. And here, as you maybe can see, there is not the parking for the cars, but the place for the animals. Because people were living with animals. So I need to have houses with animals. And this initiative permitted to become Matera, next year will be, in 2019, it will become the European Capital of Culture. It was a rebirth of Matera, and Olivetti played a role in that rebirth. It's a beautiful place. And then the business ethics. So it's important to invest in people. Kindergarten, social housing, summer camps. This is a summer camp for employees. A fund to financially support employees, psychologists, the first team of psychologists in fabric, to support workers in their daily work, social and cultural opportunity, and factory at human scale. So it was really investing in a coherent way to not only be the best in terms of innovation and design in the world, but also to be the best place to work. and was really coherent in doing this, and did a lot of innovation in the concept of fabric in the town. And then there was this is a very famous speech of Olivetti. It does two questions. That is very famous, this question. Can business has an ethic purpose? It's only profit. He said, it's not possible, it's only profit. It's not enough. Yes, profit is important. I have to reinvest. I have to share with the investor some value, of course. I have to protect myself when the crisis arrives. Yes, but it's not enough. And then this is a very strong statement he did. He said, he was speaking in front of employees. He said, I've always tried to follow a warning that my father, Camillo Olivetti, left me when I started working. Remember, he told me, that unemployment is the deadly disease of modern society. Also, the expression is very strong. For that reason, I left you an order. You have to fight with all means so that our factories' workers won't suffer the tragic destiny of enforced idleness. Also, the words are so strong. He was really believing that unemployment was a nightmare. And the life was coherent. The idea was growing, but not to make more money for the shareholders, to protect the employees. He invested a lot in commercial because was the only way to protect the employees in the fabric. So I think this is an explanation that you can be very ethic, but be a very competitive company, are not one against the other. So if I want to recap the lessons learned by the Olivetti heritage, for me are this one. Focus on training, a lot on training. The training is this one. They invest a lot in training. It's very important that, probably Adriano Olivetti made the first study tour. So the pater says he went to United States in the 1925, so before the war. And the idea is the words of Adriano, to studying the secrets of organization. Because in America was started a scientific organization, he wanted to understand. So he went there, he started for a couple of months. He went to the fabric to see how the Americans were organizing companies. So before the war, in Czech. So this was a real study tour. Then, best quality of technical training for everyone and empowerment for the most promising and willing one. I'm poor. I have not the opportunity of study, but I want to study. I like to study. I will finance you. And this was very strong in terms of state. And then the culture, not only technical, not only business, but also culture. A lot with the culture. Beauty, the ability to express main comprehensions, clearly culture in a broad sense. And thanks to the widespread presence of intellectual people in the fabric. So there was a poet, a designer, historian, were working in the fabric, in the company. Because for Adriano Olivetti, the combination between technology and culture was very important. So focused on training, not only technical and management one, but also cultural education. Global approach was really global. Strongly established in Ivrea, so root in Ivrea, but competition all over the world. So really global. Authentic vision toward work and business ethics, but build on inclusive meritocracy. If you are good, you grow. But doesn't imply that we kill the other. You grow, but I protect the other. Inclusive meritocracy. Key role also was obsessed, like Steve Jobs, like Andy Grove, obsessed by innovation. It's not enough, I have to do more. And this was also complex the character was complex, as you can imagine, but strong, and clearly technology and design were the two ingredients to create innovation. Relevance of workspace, not only technology, but workspace, where do you live, where do you work is important, so both factory and office one, and their good design for an authentic smart work was anticipated the smart work, which is not only technology, it's also design. Importance of communication and corporate image, prophetic vision of smart cities, the role of the town, and foretaste of company welfare, work-life balance, and customer social responsibility. So really a lot of innovation invented at least 40 years ago. These are, I try to translate, it's better to read in Italian, of course, so that's my translation, but the culture was very important for him. really important. He created publishing companies, 20 magazine, also art, urbanistic, and said, we have brought in all the community of workers our secret weapons, books, cultural training, and technical assistance on farming, to avoid that the landscape would be destroyed by the fabric. So really, a lot of these are, for example, two examples of, this is a Notizie Olivetti, this is an internal magazine, you see, with art. So, and it's a technical company. You can compare with some technical news. So it was visionary, also very coherent. And then that's a very interesting point of view. Maybe you are interested. The great attention of digital creative talents. Giuseppe Calogero was managing the talent hiring. In an interview said, personal department, they set up in Olivetti a study group to profile the programmers, 1960, to trace the features they should have. Very creative people, but at the same time, complicated one, the programmers. Complicated one. Not perfectly well-adjusted citizens. For that reason, it was better to look for them among those who haven't been able to end their course of study. So modern, 1960. So it was really understanding the processes, looking at people, at the process. So I think it's really a major heritage to learn, and we are happy that was Italian, this kind of consideration. Now it's part of the common wisdom in the United States, but this is at least 40, 50 years ago. So he died in 1960, but there are things which are happening. I see Olivetti revival, in fact. So first of all is the centrality of design. This is an old article of Business Week, the power of design, the role of IDEO, to put at the center of this, not only technology but design. The rising relevance and fame of design in the economy of scientific debate. The culture of design stresses a deeper comprehension of the working context of material used, performance, symbolic significance, manufacturing flexibility, environmental impact, and most of all, the concept. It has to say that design is not only aesthetics, it's not only functionalities, it's an overall approach to understand the product, how it's produced and how it's used. And clearly this new role of design put Olivetti as one of the first who understood this role in the center. I was part of the DVD Online initiative 1995 in Cagliari. This is Nicky Grauso, the founder. Nicky was, in fact, in some sense following, also in terms of aesthetics, the idea of to be local. This was in Sardinia. Was the team. This is the son of the Negroponte. Dimitri Negroponte was part of the team of Video Online. I was very young, as you can see, years and years ago. So this was a very interesting experience where some of the heritage of Olivetti, also the place, this was the location of Video Online in Cagliari. Beautiful. So the idea of aesthetics was very important. So Nicky was following some of the suggestion then we did with Riccardo Luna, we organized 2 years ago a major event starting with the P101, 50 years of innovation in Italia. So that was another event to remember to the big public that Olivetti was running. And that in Italy, the innovation never stopped. Never stopped. We are not very good in talking, like the French people, talking about the beauty we do, but we do a lot of things. So it's better maybe to remember sometimes. And then 2 years ago, when I was still chairman of the Association of the Historical Archive, we launched a very interesting design contest. Now we're working on the 3rd edition, where we took an object, it was the cash register, and we asked 10 design schools in Italy, now we extend to also European design school, to reinvent the product using the Olivetti heritage. So people started to go and see the old product, the design sketch from the designer. It was quite interesting because a lot of innovation was done by young people, and the young people restarted studying Olivetti and the Olivetti products. That's another way to call back the heritage. This is an interview I did in Quartz. So interesting in talking outside the Italian wall about Olivetti. And then another problem is the problem of, this is a book I wrote years ago about the dark side of the digital, the problem related to digital. And this is one element that Olivetti know very well. And in fact, he understood that humanities, soft skills, culture was also an antidote, something which could control the risk of technical rigidity or technical fundamentalism. So one of the roles to have intellectual in the fabric is also to counterbalance the power of technology, which can be very strong. If it's not counterbalanced, it can be very dangerous. And the only way is to use culture together. So culture not only has aesthetics, but also have understanding, critical thinking, human at the center. And these are some example of this approach. And there is really a renaissance, we could say, about human sciences, the connection between human sciences and technology. We have to put together this wedding. We have to put together the technology and the human side, which are going too far. And there is an important successor. This is still Steve Jobs. In one of the last speech he did. It's very amazing that Steve Jobs is here between two elements. Technology, of course, but liberal arts. Liberal arts is grammars, rhetoric, and dialectic. Today we talk a little bit about rhetoric. It's like to say that, and he said, the reason Apple is able to create products like the iPad is because we have always tried to be at the intersection of technology and liberal arts. So from that point of view, Steve Jobs is really the guy who took some of the heritage of Olivetti and adapted in a much broader scale. But the idea to put together technology and liberal arts, I think is still very important. We have to put more effort in approaching and using the competence of human scientists and the technologists. Maybe I think this is very nice. I don't know if you know, but Jonathan Ive, the chief designer of Apple, got in love with the Dieter Rams, the designer of Brown. This is Dieter Rams. And this is a very interesting comparison between Apple and Brown product. Very similar, as you can see. No, this is the Apple and the Brown, the Apple and the Brown, Apple and the... And this is I couldn't say that Olivetti was minimalist, of course, because Olivetti, the designer, were a lot of designers also different. But if you think about Bellini, if you take, again, this kind of product, let's go back with this. So this is the line, of course. No? So we could say that, this element of liberal arts and the role of design, I think they are very, very important. And then there was also a fiction in television. To me, not particularly nice, but a lot of success. There was another way to, this is Zingaretti, of course, a very famous, actor, and 6 million people with a share of so another way to say that there is a lot of interest also in the broader public about the history of Olivetti, the role of this entrepreneur, and also the innovation that Olivetti did. And then another very interesting thing is this one. This is, I think this is House of Cards. The end of the first series there was a very important moment because the name was Underwood of the guy, and this is an Underwood. Underwood was a very famous factory of typing machine. And there is a very, the sentence in the movie was, this Underwood build an empire. Now you go and build your own. So he took the typing machine and wrote the letter to the president. Not everybody knows that in the 1969, Olivetti bought Underwood. So Underwood is Olivetti. And probably if this was done in Italy, was this one. So the myth, this is a Lettera 22, is the typing machine. These are two very famous, Pierpaolo Pasolini, and famous writer, novelist, movie maker, regista, and this is Indro Montanelli. It was also able to create cult objects, which are still there. And this connection between Underwood is very interesting because, in fact, in that period, Underwood was Olivetti. So to try to put a closing, a wrap up, to derive some ideas, which are probably, at least for me, the heritage, the thing we can leverage on today. I see three things, basically. One is focus on training. Again, the centrality, the role of training. not only technical and business, but also human science. This is the first contribution of Olivetti. We have to go back. In fact, the area of digital humanities is going back. It's very, also the interface, the anthropology of the net, if understanding the consumer, their behavior is a major area, also the communication. So this is the first element which I think is important for us. The second is, of course, the ethical dimension is important not to think only in terms of profit. The problem of employability is very important, and a lot of activities like welfare, work-life balance, corporate social responsibility are part of this thinking. And then the last one, maybe a couple of slides, and then I close my speech, is the design, also as a conceptual model, not only physical, not only interface, not only shaping, but, a way of thinking. In fact, probably is the concept of design thinking. The concept of design thinking is growing in terms of importance. The idea is an approach to develop product, service, and organization, of course, which give the relevance to 4 dimensions, the ability to satisfy real needs, of course, people, the sustainability of economic offer, business have to be profitable, otherwise it doesn't work. The technical potentiality have to leverage the best of technology, but also the impact, environmental and ethic, the characteristic of the production process and their impact. So the impact, environmental impact is becoming more and more important, and this is part of the design approach, because the design thinking is like an holistic approach, force us to understand the whole, not a single part. So we need a capability to be more systemic, more synthetic, and the idea is clearly working on the 3-dimension, sustainable, charming, and possible. Should be possible, yes, otherwise I can do it. Should be sustainable, otherwise there is no profit, I have no money to reinvest, and should be charming. I have to love the product. This in the interception, the design thinking work. And there is the relevance of the how to do it. This is a very famous, this first statement came from Peter Drucker, but then has different way of, the problem is not only do the right thing, but we have to also do the thing right. Maybe good idea, but it's not well done, it doesn't work. The design works on the fact that it's right, but have to be done right. So the project, the culture of designing in that respect. And to close, probably the double dare of design, so the challenge today for the design is probably both, on 2 dimensions. The first dimension is how well-designed digital work. What's the meaning of a well-designed digital object? Not only physical. Olivetti was very good in physical. Now there is all the symbolic, the software, the interaction, the symbols, the content. What's the meaning of designing content? That's a major question. There is a problem of cognition, for example. That's another humanities issue. So this is related to the process of designing object. And then the process itself of design can be digitalized, like the CAD. Can we go further and work to provide to designer tools, digital tools to improve the process? I think these are the 2 dimensions of the world of design, and probably looking at the history of Olivetti, I think a lot of things can happen, and so I think we can leverage a lot from this history. I finished, but okay, thank you. Of course, if you have questions, okay, yes, sure.
The time that you talked about is the time where Italy was really like a leader in design, also industrially. Eventually, Olivetti ended up really badly because used for financial purpose.
It's a long story, financial one. Yes.
The way that they take over
yes.
for Telecom. But the point is, for me, is how, in which way they lost their way. Eventually, first of all, industrially, because if it didn't work, then ended up how it ended up. And nowadays, it's just a part of Telecom.
Yes.
And just also, we don't want to comment the industrial part of Telecom. So why they ended up like this? And how does it reflect the way that our main companies in our country ended up like this? It's not only the funds, Alfa Romeo and everything was the time. Take out Erie and everything, so we can take out the politics center in the economics in certain part, especially in the end of 70s and 80s.
Yes.
But also why before that the company already was shaking. So let's really fast.
But, yes, but it's very hard to talk about why because there is a lot of dietology, a lot of stories about the power, Masoneria, America, but basically I would only underline one element. In 1960 died Olivetti. In 61, Chu, which was the chief R&D department. The two key people died in 1 year and survived for a company who lose a leader and the number two, because Chu, the Chinese guy, was really the key of the electronics. And Olivetti keep on going. So there was a resilience, but there was a very interesting interview of Chu, probably in the 1959, who said, yes, we are very good in IT, but IT is so capital intensive. And we have no help by the government. And also, if you had help by the government, United States is playing a lot on IT. So how can we compare to United States when the government enter in the field? Because at the beginning, Olivetti started as an office automation, so but when you start doing computation, electronic, you enter in another world. So Chu was realizing very well that he was entering a very complex field in terms of capital intensiveness. Olivetti was not. At the end, we can discuss a lot about the role of De Benedetti and Colaninno, but at the end, what was the decision was to move from. There was not enough money to put the IT, and they decided to start putting the TLC and started, the Omnitel Vodafone initiative because they realized that the IT was almost impossible to be managed in Italy with this money. Yes, this.
The second one is family. Let's say build a generation of leaders afterwards. Because it's something you have a lot in the family managed companies.
Yes, but here it was really because when two leaders miss, so Chu and Olivetti, you lose the major asset on a company.
They didn't manage to build that.
No, they did because the company didn't keep on growing because with the Benedetti it reached 50,000 people. And for example, all the Compasso d'Oro, at least 12 Compasso d'Oro were after Olivetti, not in Olivetti. There was a resilience, but the power of changing again, taking another S-curve of technology was typically from Olivetti, and the other were financial. So let's another wave. Let's do another company. That's probably Olivetti was starting to do TLC in Olivetti. The other did another company, which much easier. So probably, you're right, there was a game quite articulated, but again, capital intensiveness and to leader which disappear in 1 year, it's really tough to survive. Marco.
Andrea, I do have one also.
Eh?
I do have a question.
Yes.
But first, I would like to say that I've repeated this many times, and for the things that we do here at iCampus, we never considered Steve Jobs or even Musk a reference. The reference had always been and he invented most of the things long before. But you mentioned a few things, reasons why Olivetti went down. And I don't know, I have these things going in my mind, so I don't know and I wanted your opinion, but also Pierpaolo's opinion, and the son, the guy that
Perotto.
First person. And something that I see also in startups now. And we have a kind of sense of inferiority that sometimes drives our choices. And Olivetti, in the decision of buying Underwood, may be influenced by the fact that that was the largest US corporation. And he felt that this was the best achievement in life he could ever do. And actually Underwood was a shitty company that was losing a lot of money and lost and bring a lot of negative cash to Olivetti. And in a capital-intensive place where you lose the two leaders, is it possible that the ambition and this sense of inferiority and not the ambitions, and that they maybe played a role, and maybe we're making the same errors again today in the way we see California?
Poi vuoi tu stare per parlare, vuoi iniziare tu a parlare? Vieni qua, Pierpaolo, vieni qua.
Thank you, Marco, for giving the possibility to participate to this incredible event and to this school, first of all. I just wanted to also maybe a little bit remind the historic situation when Adriano died. It was in the 1960s. In the 1959, by the way, Olivetti came out with the Ilea 9003. That was, and we don't have to forget, the first big computer that applied the transistor technology. And he appears on the market a couple of months before the similar products by IBM. Take into consideration that it's known that this event created a kind of a big worries in the United States, in particular in the NSA, because the computer technology is a weapon technology. That, by the way, is the technology that allows the Allies to win the Second World War. The Turing machine on this side, and the
Enigma.
With the atomic bomb on the west side and Pacific part, and also in that case, the computer technology played big roles to have the bomb before the Germans. So a company that is in Italy, which is exactly in behalf of the two, in that period,
blocks.
The two block that come out with a technology that was not ruled by the law, by when we won, we lost the Second World War, the Italy has had to be under some rules. So we cannot have colors TV for a while. We can't make portaerei. But they forget to give limitation to the computers.
Meno male.
So when this happened, and they figure out, by the way, by a person like Adriano Olivetti, which in the US culture, it was not really clear if it is something coming from closer to the Russia or closer to the US. Because his vision was so innovative that it cannot be put in one block or in the other. Let me open the Adriano Olivetti created a beautiful synthesis by a community vision and the respect of the individual. The respect of the individual is more on the American culture. The community vision is more on the Russian culture. Olivetti create a unique vision, creating a company which respects the individual and that work within a community. So the US guys didn't understand really what was happening. In the 60s, Adriano dies. In the 61, Chu dies. And this creates a new scenario on which the Olivetti became without a leader.
Guide.
And this happened when the Italian economic boom was at the end. So a crisis, not just the economic crisis rising in the 62, 63. In that period, to support the Olivetti, it has been created a group by other professionals, led by Fiat, and in particular, that has designed the new CEO of Olivetti. Fiat was very close to the US, and Pecce was designated for being the new CEO of Olivetti, and he created a new strategy for Olivetti. He said, make an assessment, and said, in this difficult moment, we see Olivetti in a financial good condition, since we remove a cancer that is inside, the electronic. So they decide to sell all the electronic division to an American company, by the way. the General Electric. So all the 300 people that was in the division of the Olivetti, the electronic division, that are created the ELEA 9003. But not only that, all the production, the manufacturing that has also manufactured has been moved between 1963-64 to General Electric. So in this moment, in Olivetti was no competence in the electronic, since that was my father and two collaborators that didn't agree, and actually in this vision, they think that the General Electric will keep the division and keep the product, and they transform in a commercial side to sell a US product in Italy. They didn't want to move in that group, they remained in Olivetti. And that they started working on something that they call calcolatrice, because they have no name. The initial name was called Perottina because of the name of my father. That was a small machine, and that was not categorized as a computer, because otherwise you should move to General Electric, and categorized as a calcolatrice. So the calculatrice stay in Olivetti. Calculatrice stay in Olivetti, computers go to General Electric. The rest of the history is known, because in the 65, Olivetti, with the new strategy, go to the BEMA show in New York, presenting the new line of products, mechanical products, due to this new strategy, but also bring the Olivetti 101 in as a concept car, by the way. It was not meant to be product manufactured. It was just to be shown. It was not in that situation. The newspaper didn't put any attention to the mechanical product, but was amused, was getting love with the P101, and they became the star of the show, of the BEMA show. And all the US commercial methods of Olivetti, considering the enormous communication done on the newspaper regarding this machine, asked to Andrea to put in production the program 101. And that was done with enormous difficulties, because that was not ready.
Prototype.
This is the way the electronic can come back in Olivetti. I don't want to go another speech in the speech, but anyway, starting from that comes in new ways. In the 1967, Olivetti understood that mechanic had no future, reinvest everything in the new strategy on Olivetti. Mr. Pechase go away. Roberto Olivetti with Iarak come as a new CEO. Roberto Olivetti was the son of Adriano Olivetti. They put all the effort of going back in the electronic. My father became a general manager of all the R&D at Olivetti and started to create the new electronic division. By the way, calling back most of the friends that was part of this division from the General Electric. And between these 10 years, 67 and 77 when the Benedetti came back, this group became of 2,500 people, and Olivetti started creating a new line of products where there was not anymore the bigger computer, but was creating products that brings intelligence close to the people. And Olivetti became leader in the world in the automation of branches of
banking,
bank, of
post office,
to create better services to people in these branches, putting intelligence locally that can provide intelligence service even if the bigger computer will don't work. This is a piece of the history of Olivetti. In that year, Olivetti became a new leader in the world, not in the main computer, but in the new area, which is most closer to what we have
now. One more element about the question Marco was doing. Probably, the reading of people about the approach of Adriano Olivetti was not between ambition and inferiority, which is the I is in the front line, is I have to do it. I have a mission. So the question is not questioning, I can do it, I'm ambitious enough. It was not ambitious. It was forced to do innovation because it was good. It's like, I think that the concept of mission is much, and I think that is the case today. If we are start question ourselves, are we inferior, superior, are we ambitious enough? Who cares? We have to do it. We are forced by the product. We see that the people will be better. And this was the force, because it was completely concentrated on doing things, on improving things. And probably if you look at the scenario today, this scenario of software, of electronics, is not capital intensive. So probably we have in a situation where we don't need a lot of capital. There is a lot of creativity, the willing to do it, commercial. So probably the ingredient today of replicating, some of the lessons of Olivetti are still here. Probably in the 1670s, the capital intensiveness, the big project, the relation with the public administration was so tough that if you are not part of the game, you were out. So I think, Marco, that we propose, so the intuition that the real mentor is Olivetti and not Musk or Steve Jobs is correct. Because probably the new stage of software development, interfaces, sensor, Internet of Things, micro everything, is much more due to creativity and intuition more than capital intensiveness. So I think that we can still use Andrea Olivetti as a mentor and as a guideline.
Yeah. I wanted to add to what is correctly said by Andrea, that to do things and to do the things that stay and compete in the world, first you have to reach the level of your competitor. In the Olivetti culture, no inferiority, no superiority, just go and learn and study. This is the lesson that first Adriano take from his father, because he spent a lot of time in the US, as well as the father, to learn the organization of the manufacturer, to learn the things that are going right. And in the culture of Olivetti, I worked 12 years in the Olivetti between the 86 and the 98. In Olivetti, the culture, if there is a leader, let's start first and let's study, let's think and try to get the best competence and then try to design to reach the best, the same level, and then we can create an innovation to go over the competition. So you don't have to be inferior, but not also to be superior, because you have to start to learn, to spend your efforts before, in a very simple way.
Absolutely. So thank you very much.